All right. So now if I click on here, right, it should be able to change this the way I want it. So how can I achieve this? So for that, I need some sort of event. And usually in HTML, there is an on-click event, something like this. But in React, there is also on-click event, but the C is capitalized. And remember, anything that you want to put dynamically, you just use a curly bracket, which means I'm going to put something that I created in JavaScript, right? So this is created in JavaScript, right? Again, this isn't an HTML syntax. As I said, this is called JSX, right? This is the one that gets rendered here. But anytime I want to interpolate something here, I have to use curly brackets. You see the plus sign, it's not JavaScript, it's just a text. So I can just use it like this. But if it's something else that I created in JavaScript, I have to use the curly brackets. So that's a rule. So I'm going to create a function here called handle plus, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this and put it in between here. This means when I click here, this button is being called. That's all it means. When I click on this button, this handle plus button is getting called. And I can test it if I say console log clicked. This. Okay. So now if I click on here, you see it says clicked, right? So now we know that if I click on this button, this is being triggered, right? I can go ahead and say set I, and then I can take, I can set anything. Let's say if I say 20, right? Which means when I click on here, this becomes 20 from, so I becomes 20. That's what it means. You see? But after that, if I click, it again sets to 20, so I don't see a change, right? So what I can do instead of this, I can say, take the previous value of I, because remember the objective of state is it remembers what was that before, and then add it to one, add one to it, right? Which means, let's refresh this from here. So initial value is 100. So if I click on it now, it will take whatever the I is, which is 100, and it would add one to it, right? You see, now it's dynamic. So this is really cool. I can make websites that are very dynamic. This is a very simple example. But if you go to Facebook, right, if I click on something, something else happens, right? Something pops up, something gets hidden, something new shows up, right? All of this happens using this language or this platform called React. So in React, all you remember is you create a state, some variable, and also its setter, and then some default value, right? And this allows you to change stuff. Any question? Okay, So Dale, do you have a now a minute to show? So now that we know what we can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. So
Okay,
actually, what
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
showed, what I made was not in React, it's in JavaScript. So it'll show how much easier it is to make if you could just do it in React. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's a good example. Yeah, I'm gonna let you share. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So this is just using, see, it's not coming up with the hover.
And do show the
Okay.
code also so that we
Yeah,
would
I'm
know
going to open it.
how complex it looks like.
Inspector, yeah. So it's just very simple. You see, it's not showing much. There are 3 buttons to select, and I used emojis to render them. So the HTML is very short. There's area for each of the button selections, and then to render the score between you and the computer. Oops, race versus. But the JavaScript, I mean, to be so long to do just this, it would probably just be a couple lines with the React hooks the way we're learning now. But there's an object of the selections, and each has, I guess this is like the key and value pair of what it beats. So there's functionality to make the selection and test it for whether it wins. And there's similar functionality to make the computer selection and test where it wins, along with the math random selection for the computer. And then there's what adds it to the column in like a CSS grid here. But what I didn't do is add anything for a tie. So if it ties, you'll see that neither side scores. But yeah, this is just to try, and I followed along with something else. That's not my logic, but I tried to do it to learn JavaScript a little better and understand it more, but it would be so much simpler in something like React.
Yeah, and you can see from the code also that, for example, each of this, rock, paper, scissors, all 3, you have to access. So you have that in HTML, right?
Right.
Elements. So if I want to access it, I have to, the first 4 lines are just grabbing that, say, hey, this is my select buttons, right? And then if I click on it, there are some events going on, right, at the bottom.
Right.
So those are kind of, it's a, you have to say add event listener, like line 24,
right,
and all that stuff, right? But with React, this becomes much simpler.
Right.
Okay, because the wiring, the underneath wiring, React takes care of it. All you have to remember is, what is my state? So in this case, your score is your state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is 0, 0. You are 0, computer is 0. That's your state, right? And when you click on it, somebody will win and somebody will lose, right? So you just update the state using that setter that I just created, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works in React. So I mean, this is for this much functionality, it is a lot of code, but most importantly, it gets really complex if once the UI gets kind of tricky, right? So that React solves that issue by doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of code for just one choice and
Yeah.
decision and click. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll stop now.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for showing, Dale. Yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah, if you wanted to think about your next project, let's say if it's going to be one of these games, right, like a rock paper scissors, I would suggest think about in that term, like state. Once you start thinking about in terms of state, things becomes very easy. Let's say,
Actually,
go
can I
ahead.
share one more thing I just found out about recently?
Sure.
If anybody has a GitHub or doesn't yet, if you have a student ID, you can get the student developer pack on GitHub. And there's a lot of free resources. Not student ID, but a student email.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. Yeah. So there
Yeah, it's
are.
something I never knew about. I've been using it for a little while, and I just saw that you can get that. And there's a bunch of different free things on Unity or I don't know, a bunch of technologies I'm not familiar with, but there's a lot of free stuff.
Okay, maybe next time, if since you already have you already got in it, you're enrolled in that one.
Yeah, I got it, but I'm not familiar with everything it offers.
Okay, we
Just
can
student
look
ID.
at it. We can look at the options that are available. But it's pretty cool. I actually was trying to enroll, but they were like, okay, you're not a student, so they did not let me do it. So, uh, but I had to probably pay. But anyway, that's great that you were. I think it has some pretty good advantages. Some cool stuff that you can use in the GitHub. So yeah, anything free, just go and grab it so you can use it. Okay, so as I said, if I want to start something from zero, I can start something from zero, right? And now it's zero. If I plus, it goes up, right? Uh, if I want to reduce this, all I have to do is copy paste this button here, and I can just use minus sign. But then instead of plus, I'm going to create another function. You can do it in one function, but I'm just going to create another one. And I'm just going to say minus here. And okay. And obviously you have to change the reference here as well. So now I have two buttons, one plus and one minus. Plus button takes the value of I and adds it to, so the new value becomes one more than the I. If I click on minus, it reduces it, right? So if I refresh it, and then when I do plus, it goes up. When I do minus, it goes down. It will go also negative if you keep doing it, right? So yeah, if to do this in JavaScript, it's also very, just pure JavaScript, it's very difficult. This is actually HTML and JavaScript code both in one file, and you can see how small it is. So you basically focus, when you do React, all you focus on logic. Everything else, React takes care of it. You can say, what do I want to change? This is I. It says, I want to change I. How do I change it? You need some sort of event, right? Which is on-click event. And what happens when I click on it? You have a handle, right? So if you think of this way, you have what? You have state. You need to think in terms of state, then modifier, right? Which is your set state, initial value, which is 0, right? And then lastly, the action or event that changes it. So in a way, this is like a life, right? Life, you're born, you have initial value, right? And then your state is nothing but you're persistent, right? You're gonna change throughout your life. Your hands becomes bigger, you have more hair, sometimes you lose hair, whatnot, right? So that's your state. What is a modifier? Modifier is something that changes the state, which is, you exercise, your body changes, right? Event is nothing but the your action that applies as modifier. right? I can take the food and put it in my mouth. So eating is the action, the food is a modifier, right? So you grow in that sense. So this is the fourth thing you need in pretty much anything that changes. You need initial value. You need some way to keep track of that value, which is a state, right? That holds a value, and then you need a modifier that lets you change things, and you need some event that would trigger the modifier, right? So anything you build, think in terms of that. Okay, now instead of plus, let's do something more fun. Instead of plus, I want to do something on a hover. Okay, I think there is an event call. How about everybody Google it and find out what's the event. And just do it on the button. So if I on a hover over it, right? So you can Google. I'll give you a hint. Google stuff like React on hover event and find out some examples. So all you have to change is this event here. And let's try it. So instead of on click, you want to do this on hover. I'll give you a few minutes to do it. I'm going to go offline it. All right. Anyone got it?
On mouse over.
Mouse over. On. And you can see here, it will show you all the, it has on mouse enter, on leave, on move. There's so many different ones, right? So let's go on mouse over. So I'm just going to apply for the first button only, right? You see? But the second button, it doesn't do anything. I have to actually click on it. So it's pretty cool. You can also want to do on a scroll. You can do a lot of different things. We're going to learn more about events later on, but I want you to focus. I'm going to focus on a state and how it works. Okay. So yeah, usually this is not a, mouse over. You can do some other stuff, but chaining state is probably doesn't make sense. But there are a lot of things that make sense when you put the mouse over. So for mouse over, what you would do is, let's say if you want to show some extra information, a lot of times, mouse over is used for that, right? So I want to know more about what's going on here, right? So I would mouse over this and it would say, hey, this is an explorer here, you see? So this is probably using some sort of React inside. And then when I mouse over it, it shows some element here, right? So I'm gonna make this back to on click, and now the mouse over doesn't work, it's on click. So this is really cool way to, you know, do things. So you don't have to you don't have to do wiring of the whole thing yourself. React lets you do that. So how does this work actually? Let's think about this way. When I click on this button, right, what does really happen? How I understand that, okay, it calls a handle plus and it sets the I to 1, right? But then I has to get updated, right? So how does that work? So this is called DOM updates, right? DOM is nothing but your what should I say? Your HTML, right? So if I want to change the value of this, which is dynamic, it has to refresh the page actually, right? Or at least that value. So how does that do that? How does it refresh the value? So to refresh the value, it keeps track of something called virtual DOM, okay, which is nothing but sort of like it keeps track of another HTML page inside its memory. And so whenever I click on handle plus or minus, it updates the value. And as soon as I say something called set I, it knows that it needs to not only change the value, but it also needs to change the refresh the page. So what it does, it goes and updates this virtual DOM, which it holds in the memory, and then it once it's updated, then it's I'm going to repaint this on the screen. So this is how it works. Okay, so it's constantly repainting whenever I call something called set, right? That's why the set I is a very special function. It knows that this is the one I'm going to repaint it. If I click on here somewhere, right, it's not going to do it. If I click on here, when I call the set I, that's the time that it will do it. Got it? Any questions? Somebody should have some questions. Okay, looks like everyone got it. Okay, so I want you to really grasp this, just really grok this, understand what's going on, because we're gonna be using this a lot. Okay. Okay, so let's do this. Let's build. I'm just gonna write it here. Okay. You can use some conditional statement, some pure JavaScript inside here, so that it starts from zero, and then it goes up to 5, right? And then back to 0. So if I click, let's say, if I start with a 0, and then if I keep pressing plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will hit 5. And then if I click this, it will go back to 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it circle around between 0 and 5. For that, you don't have to say plus, but you can just use only one button, plus, and you can remove the minus button, right? Just this button that will or you can call it change because it's not really plus, change, right? If I keep pressing it, it would go 0 to 5 and then back to 0 and to 5 again. So it will keep circling around 0 and 5. Okay, you can, so the trick is something here. You can check the value of I to influence whether you want to add or subtract. Okay, I'm going to give you, everyone understand this requirement? Basically starts from 0, goes to 5, back to 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and go back and forth. And so it's going in a loop. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do this, and then we can look at a solution.
Can you scroll down a little bit, please?
Okay, let me show you. Okay. Works? All right. Anyone got the solution? So the log should be within the, this whichever event that you are calling the button, right? You can look at the value of I and make the decision based on that, whether you want to add it or subtract it, right? Is anyone still working on this? If you're still working, I'll just give you a few more minutes, or I can solve it. If you're still working on it, just put something in chat. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you a few more minutes. Yeah. All right. Jiyun, are you still working on it?
I'm done.
Are you done? Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So let's talk about it, right? So usually the way I do is I would draw the whole thing. Okay. So let's say my initial value is going to be what? The initial value is 0, right? We already know that, so which is here. Then it will go from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, right? Which means I have to see which, so by default, it will do plus, right? When would it do plus? If it's plus, if it's less than or equal to, or less than 5, basically, right? If it's less than 5, do plus, else minus. That's it, right? So the simple logic would be, if I is less than 5, then I would say this, else I would do minus. Make sense? So now if I, okay, let me have to first refresh it. Sometimes this is stale, so make sure you refresh it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's still less than 5. Once it's 5, now if I click again, then it says, okay, I'm gonna go here, right? But then you see, it's as soon as it's, so this is the trick, and you probably realize this, that as soon as it's go to 4, right? What happens? As soon as you go to 4, it says, oh, I'm less than 5, so I'm going to increment it, right? Which means we need a little bit more logic to follow, right? So it's not that simple. That's why I'm sure a lot of people took much longer, because my expected should be, it should change the direction. So what we can do is we can create another one. I intentionally give you a little hard one. Is up, set is up. So I'm creating another state, use state, and then I'm going to keep it up or true. Okay, which means, and this is another second state where the initial value of this is up is true, right? Which means go up, and then I can make it go down as well, right? So I can say what can I do? So in that case, what I have to do is, when it reaches 5, then I want this to be, if I is equal to 5, then set is up equal to false, which means go down, right? And when it reaches 0, if I equal to 0, then set is up equal to true, right? Which means change the direction. That's a one way, right? Another way would be, so this way, and then you check check the direction. If it's up, then plus. If it's down, then minus, right? There'll be one caveat though here, which we'll know. So I can say if the is up, then I would do set I plus 1, right? So from 0 until 5, it's going to be up. If, well, else, here I can use else, because if it's not up, right? Else set I minus 1. It's not going to be as efficient with this one, because we are not, there's one caveat, and I'll tell you why. And this is the precisely why I gave you this example. So it's 0, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3, 2, 1, 0, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. You see, there's a one caveat that it goes 1 up and 1 down. Anyone know why is it doing it? You guys get this concept, right? So from 0, so this here, it's, if think of this way, this is, it's up, right? Up to, here's up, here's up, here's up, here's up. Here, I make it down, right? Which means is up equal to false. And then it goes up, and then here again, it goes up again, right? Okay. The reason that this anomaly is happening, as I said, it's not going to be perfect, is because once it hits 5, I'm setting it to false. The trick is, this thing is called asynchronous, which means I set it up, right? But it's not up until it gets reflected on the page. So remember, there's a process. First, it gets up, so it takes the virtual DOM and it updates it this to up, right? Then it gets repainted this, but by then this code has finished coding. So even when I changed, when I equal to 5 is up, this is still down, which means is up equal to false here. And that's why when it hits 5, it goes to 6, right? So if I want to do something, I have to start at 4, and that's when I want to do it, right? So now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when 4 happens, it says, okay, make it false. But before it paints it, it actually goes and does this, right? So now it works. And then for this one, for minus 1, I can actually start at 1, right? So 0, oh. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's important to understand when this happens. It's almost like um, think of this way. So you have somebody at the door, right? And you tell your friend, say, hey, go open the door, right? So he goes and is trying to open the door. So door is closed, it's opening, he's opening it, right? But in meanwhile, you're doing something, you're drinking tea or something. So if you want to check, if you want to rely on its status, that if the door is open, I'm gonna, if the door is closed, I'm gonna drink tea, then because your friend is gonna take his time to reach there to the door, right? By the time you probably have a sip of tea, right? So you cannot rely on. So you want him to go there and come back, and then give you the status, and so that's what it's called asynchronous. So we look at more about how it all works, but that's a caveat. Anyone else got it working without it? You can actually get it working without it as well, but anyone else get it working without this? So how can we do this? Let's think about logic without. If I don't want to use this extra step, right? How do I get it work? So if it's zero, because I don't have a sense of direction. Let's say if it's 3, based on the state itself, can you make a decision that should I go up or down? Because when it's 0, you already know next thing you need to go up, right? But based on if I'm 3, I have no idea if I need to go upward, because I could go either way, right? So let's say, okay, let me put the previous code here. Okay, so let's say I am here at 1. If I click on it, should it go up or down? Right now it will go up because I have this set it up is for true, right? So it's going to go up. So it's go 1 to 2. But you can have this situation where it's here, and if I click on here, it goes down, right? So it's based on the direction. So there is a way to remember what the previous state, and you can look at the previous state and make decision as well. Okay, but without that, it's very hard to do, because for any of these middle numbers, it could go up or down, right? And that's a tricky. That's why I use this the second state. But I wasn't expecting for any of you to come up with solution. I was hoping maybe one of you from previous class may come back with that solution, but it is a tricky solution. Any question on this one? Okay, let me give you a next exercise. So let's remove this value and all that stuff. So I'm going to remove value from here. What I want you to do is have a button called toggle. Okay. And there'll be something called here, like up or down or something like that. Okay. So when I click on toggle, it will, if it's up, it will make it down. If it's down, it would make it up. So just up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, you can create a new state, or you can use the same state, doesn't matter. But think of it in terms of, you need to create some state that you use it here inside, and toggle it when I when I push it. It's not as tricky as the previous one, believe me or not. Okay, so I'm gonna remove most of it. Let's call this handle toggle. So you have some wiring done for you. And then you're going to be doing some sort of setting, right? And you're going to have this handle toggle here. I'll at least give you that. And then you have some sort of state that you need to use. Any question? I think this should be as simple. It's not that tricky as the previous one. Yeah, the trick is you need to do at least 4 or 5 such example. Then your brain start to, you know, understand, oh, this is how it works, right? I'll give you a few minutes to do it. All right, so this was a bit easier. Anyone got it? Still working on it? All right. Anyone still working on it? Okay, so I'm just gonna use I as the same variable, and this one would be true. Okay, let's set it as true as a default value. Remember, if I wanted to set, I always want to start with the initial value. What is the initial value? Initially, it's true. Okay. Then on click, true becomes false, and false becomes true, right? So I define this on click handle toggle. I would say if the if I is true, but it's a string, remember? So I have to use string, then set I as string false, right? Else set I as true. And then I use I here because remember, anything that you use, you just put an I here. So you have initial value, which is true for this I. So if I just insert I here, automatically this would be true, right? And if I click on here, toggle, it checks whether it's true. If true, makes it false. If it's false, makes it true. That's it. Okay, any question on here? All right. We can actually, this semester I want to take really slowly for you to actually, so give you lots of different examples. Okay. Let's do one thing. I'm going to give you an array. Let's say bag equal to, you have pen, milk, you have tea, and your cup. Okay, so your bag with this many items. So what I want you to do is if it's, I want you to show, sort of like, remember you have this next. So this would be what's next. Okay, so initially the first item should show here, which is pen. So initially you would see pen. You would see pen. Okay, if I click on next, what it will do is it would show the next item, which is milk, then the next item, which is tea, and then cup. Once cup ends, it will again show pen. It doesn't go reverse order like before, which is easier because then it's only one direction. So previously the problem was, if I was at 3, I can go 2 or 4, right? In this case, it would only go in one direction, which means if I'm a milk, if I'm at milk, it will only go to tea. If I'm tea, it will go to cup. If I'm a cup, it will go to pen, right? So I want you to, it will keep rotating, but in only in one direction. You can write it a hard way, or you can write it a easier way. But remember, if you learn, if you understood arrays, this will become very easy, right? And draw something like this. Initially, what the value is. On click, if this is the value, then this should be the next value. If this is the value, and this, you can literally write that, or you can write some logic based on that. Okay. Any question on this one? Everybody's understanding this, or any confusion here, right? I don't want you to I don't want you to, that's why I'm giving you a little bit more example, right? I want you to really grasp this concept, because if you understand this, you can pretty much do any example related to state. Okay, I'll give you for a few minutes to finish this. And those who are new programmers, I will give you a hint. One of the best thing you need to do is like a brute force. If you think something may work, just try it and see if it works, right? Don't be skeptical. A lot of people just say, "Oh, if I want to, what if I try this and it doesn't work?" No, you just try it, okay? And that's how you get closer to what you really want to do. You just try a bunch of stuff. If it doesn't work, you remove it, try something else, and that's how you learn. And that's how you understand, okay, if this works, which means this is the pattern that I need to follow. Think about how to get the first item if you don't know how to get the first item. Try to get the first item from the back, at least show pen here somehow without hard coding like this, right? Anyone finished? Believe me, I used to be new to all of this, and I always struggle as well. So if you're struggling, that's fine. In time you'll get it. You just have to try, right? I give you a story while you guys doing it. I'll give you a story. I came to Bay Area around 2001. I used to work at NASA here in Mountain View. There's a NASA Ames Research Center, and next door to us was a Google campus. And in 2001, Google wasn't the Google that is right now today. Okay, the Google right now is just a huge company. Google back then probably had, maybe under 1,000 employees. They were very small. They had only one, maybe even much less than 1,000. I would say the only product they had was search. There was no Google Doc or any of these fancy products, right? They're just one website and search only. I think in those days they were able to do it in the Yahoo. If you do search through Yahoo, it was actually Google search in those days. So that contracted with Yahoo. So I joined NASA, and I'm one of my manager. A few months later, quit, and he moved to Google. And he was, not next door, but it's a few streets down. So one day he called me up and he said, come down here. Every Friday we have some free food here. If you want to grab some food. So I went there, and it was a small office, and they were giving beer and sushi on Fridays. So he said, every Friday at Google we get beer and sushi, and there was a novelty back then, right? So I was like, oh my God, you guys giving food to your employees, that's really great. And then he said, oh, do you want to work here? And I was like, I'm not sure if I want to work here, right? So he said, oh, this is a great place. This is before even it went public and everything. Okay. So they were not in, the stock wasn't out there. It was a private company still. So I said, what are you looking for? And he said, oh, we're looking for some Python programmers. Python was a new language back then, and I didn't know Python. So I said, okay, so if somebody knows Python, you're gonna hire them, right? So yeah, it's as simple as it. So I said, okay. And I was taking some class here at the local community college, De Anza College, some random classes. And I met this guy who was unemployed at the time. So he was complaining that, I lost my job, and he was a gamer. So he didn't do much, but just probably play some game for some gaming company. So I said, okay, do do you know how to code? And he said, no, I don't know how to code. I said, okay, if you can learn Python, I can get you a job at Google. So he said, okay. So he bought a book and he started learning. And he said, how much should I learn? I said, just learn some basics, go for a couple of weeks and then come back to me, right? Or take a course or whatever. So I think he bought a book and he did some programming in Python. And I passed his resume to that guy, my ex-boss, and he keeps saying, oh no, are you still interested? I say, no, I don't want to work for Google because it's such a small company. I'm really good. I'm really good at where I am right now, which was NASA. I wasn't getting paid like a lot of money, but there was a name associated with it, NASA. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna keep working here. So that guy managed to get the job there by just learning some Python. And then a couple of years later or so, I heard that they were going public. Google was going public. So I was curious. So I called him up and I said, hey, looks like you hit the jackpot. Did you get any stocks? So because, if you join as a private company, they'll give you some stocks. And he said, yeah, not much. They gave me, 4,000 stocks. It's called stock options. So usually, it's usually 10,000, 15,000. The stock value is usually $1, $2, something like that. But he got 5,000 or so. So I said, yeah, that doesn't look like that much. So he said, yeah. And then when they opened the first day, Google, the price was $100. Okay, so you multiply 5,000, multiply $100. Okay, so he within like couple years that was, and then right now I think this Google price is I think over $1,000, right? Let me see how much it is, and they actually split in between. So if you own some stock in those days, you are already a multimillionaire. Okay, you can have your private jet and whatnot. So that's the story, right? Um, if you are, so my point is, programming may look hard in the beginning. You just have to practice a lot. You can't give it up. Once you start getting some ideas, you will really enjoy it. And then once you enjoy it, you can do more. Build your project, like what you saw Dale doing, right? And then that can get you in a door where, because you need a first job, right? In this field, if you get a first React job or first JavaScript job, the door opens up, and you can start making really decent amount of money, right? So I hope that motivates you. That was a mistake I made. I should have gone to Google, but we all make our choices, right? At that point, I thought it was a bad decision. I was leaving my stable job for some startup, but apparently it was a bad decision. So, all right. So, anyone still working on this one? Okay, let me give you a solution. Again, as I said, it can be a little tricky in the beginning. So what do we want to get here? So we want to get the first item, pen here. First, that's it. I want to get the first item, pen. I can potentially, if I want to get this, I can potentially put this pen here, right? As a first value. And I just, within this curly brackets, I can just use I. That's it, right? And then it would give me that value here. Once it's finished compiling, obviously. Okay, so I get the pen here, right? If I change this to milk, it will become milk here, right? So that you already know. You create a variable and a setter, an initial value, and whatever, if you can just interpolate that value any place, which is I here, right? I can actually have it 5 times, and it would show 5 times here, right? So that's the beauty of it. I'm always gonna do one time. So I can do that, right? That's it. But instead of hard coding this, what if I want to grab it from here? Anyone know how to grab this here? We learned the arrays, right? So how to grab the pen and then use it here. All right, somebody answered. Okay, bag 0. Thank you. So we're gonna do bag 0, right? Because that's the first element in this array. So what do we get? Pen, right? But do I really want to grab the value? What if I just remember the index, right? Because all I care about the index. Because if I want to go to the next one, I don't know how to get that, right? If I have a value. But if I have an index, I can say from 0 to 1 would take me here, from 1 to 2 take me here, right? So if I simply do this, set I and I plus 1, right? So I'm going to put 0 here, right? And then it's a similar, instead of toggle, let's say plus or change or next, right? So we're going to call this next. I always change the name so that it's meaningful. Okay. So instead of this value, I'm just going to look at the index. So index here is 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So it switches from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Once it's reached 3, it goes down, right? To 0. Not goes down in this, but it becomes 0, right? So if I go 0, 1, 2, 3, then it's supposed to become 0 again, right? But in this case, it's not going to go down. So I can say this. I can say if I is, let's say, equal to or greater than equal to 3, then I want to make it 0. Right? Else, right? Make sense? Because what we are looking for is, let's say this is 0, pen is 0, right? The milk is 1, the tea is 2, and cup is 3, right? So once the cup finishes, we want to go back to pen, which is 0. So the transition is here. You can see the transition, right? 0, the 3 to 0, and then from 0 to 1 is happening here, right? So we don't have to worry about it. So it's a loop that way. So if I just go now like this, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0. So I don't really have to remember the value. I'm just going to remember the index, which is this. And then in order to print it, instead of printing 0, 1, 2, I'm just going to pass bag, and I'm just going to pass that index I, right? So initially the index is 0. So I get a pen, milk, tea, cup, pen, milk, tea, cup. Okay. I would suggest I'm gonna post this video on YouTube. Make sure that you watch it over, practice it, right? So that you get exposure to this. And I'm also gonna give you some good amount of homework around this so that you can master this. Because understanding this is pretty much like a 40% of the work for React, understanding the state. So we learn multiple things: how to create state. We created state. How to interpolate. So this is called interpolating. So putting the state inside here. And we also learn how to how event works, right? So any question on this one? I hope this doesn't look like a mysterious stuff to you guys, or completely, that you're not completely confused. All right, hopefully not. Okay, we can actually end today a little early, unless somebody, and then if somebody wants to work with me, from 6 to 6:30, feel free to do that. I can help you with that, if any, one-to-one, if you have any questions. Okay, otherwise we can, to those who want to have chat, I can stay back. Otherwise, we can end here. And I think those who joined late, if you look at the chat, I'll put it again. Those who already have the course, that's fine, but I have a Udemy course on JavaScript, so feel free to go and get it. It should not cost you because it's a free coupon attached to it, so you should be able to get it. And so you can learn systematically. You can learn JavaScript systematically, and also you can learn some of the subject that we didn't cover from JavaScript. Okay. Oh, somebody wants to join again. And then, yeah, feel free to, stay back, those who have questions. So otherwise I'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you. Do we know what we're working on for next week, or will it just be in Canvas?
Yeah, I'll put it in Canvas. I'm usually like one day behind in putting the homework, so you can check it. And then next time we're gonna do a couple of things. We're gonna do a dynamically rendering content, so I can add element. Right now we're just doing the this, right? And also we're gonna look at events in a little bit detail, so we can pass things into the method. Right now we're not passing anything, so we can pass the things into methods. And a couple of things. I think we are ahead right now in the course, way ahead, and I want to keep it that way. So I want to take it a little slowly. I want to give lots of examples so that you get a lot of practice. And yeah, so this way I'll be able to cover some complex topics like promises and stuff like that for some people who didn't learn last time. Okay.
Thank you.
And then start working in a project as well. Think of what you wanted to do. Okay. Bye. And then, if you want to stay behind, stay behind.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you, like, where can we look up like documentation for React? Like, I see you change like, handle next, and then you put something different, but like that will never like occur to me to think about this.
Yeah. So
the code.
Oh, okay.
And what they do and all that stuff.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So if you want to look at the documentation, you can go, if you search on React, Also, the problem is with some of the documentation on React, it's going to be little. Some of them may be old, so you can always ask me. So let me put this is their main page, react.org. Okay, you can get started here. Let me show you which page is to, let's say, learn React. Okay. Done by doing practical. Let me make sure that it's the right example, because it could be an old example because it's a mix of like young. You see, this is an old syntax. It's no longer valid, so that's the problem. Practical tutorial. Setup for tutorial completely became. Yeah, these are all old stuff. So this is their main website. Okay, let me see if there's something else that I can show you. Guide to main concepts. Even this is quite old. Okay, I would give you, you see, all of this stuff is pretty old that they have. Okay, you know what? Let's search on something else. React hooks, examples, learn React hook. Okay, this is maybe better. Okay, this is the one, yeah, I was looking for. Let me share this link. Because on their website, don't just try anything, because React has changed quite a bit for past 2-3 years. So if you see something, because I don't want you to just learn old stuff, because it's gonna be gone soon, right? So this is what we learned today, right? The use state, and then we looked at this as the counter, right? Here, it's directly writing that function inside, but we had a separate method, which they will also, I guess. Again, the problem with a lot of this stuff is they expect you to do, it's a very high level, and yeah, that's the only problem with this is. But I would say check this out, right? This hooks overview. Check this out if you were to do this way. But any question on this one, by the way? Any question on this one?
Yeah, I just thought that if I know the hooks, it will be easier to come up with a solution.
Okay. Yeah, so
that's what I'm asking.
This is called hook. The use state is called hook.
Uh-huh.
So as I said, what it does, see, all you have to think about it, this is the dynamic stuff, right? Anything that you write within this return is static, right? So the div, this tag is static, this tag is static, this is also static, except anything that you put inside this curly brackets is dynamic, right? That is coming from this JavaScript here, right? Okay. So you interpolate here. So anything dynamic you write here, and then you can interpolate here. That gets substituted inside. So the bag I, which is nothing but the milk, right? So when I click on here, right, next, what happens? It gets triggered this neck handle, right? Because this next button is nothing but this. And on click, it calls this handle next. So where is the handle next, which is here, which checks the value of I. So initially the value of I is 0, right? So anything you see
Yeah.
inside here, it's the initial value, right? So then what it says, okay, is I greater than 3, right? No, because it's 0, right? So it's just going to look at anything that is inside the else, which means make I one more, make the value of I one more. So if it's 0, it makes it 1, right? Once it makes it 1, it substitutes back here. So now the I is 1. So before it was pen, now it became milk, right? Because I is nothing. Now it's I is 1. And if you grab the second element, which is milk here, so we'll put milk here, right? And then the next, so let's say if I will start with pen. That's the first one. When I click on next, it gives me milk because it's now 1. Again, if I click on next, it gets me tea because until it hits 3, right? Now it's 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, okay, now it's 3, make it 0 again, right? And then 0 is this pen.
Yeah.
So it makes it 0. So that's what it is. It says, just change it based on. So this is the logic that you play around with when you click on it. So this is the initial things you need to define, and you need to focus on action. So when I click on what happens, this is what happens. What is a state? This is state. What is the initial value that I have, which is 0? Okay. So the document that I share with you, it can explain you a little bit more in detail. But the hooks is nothing but this is the hook. Use state is a call hook. It actually helps you remember persist values, because anything dynamic, you need to remember what was the before value, right? And then change based on that. So that's what it's doing.
Yeah. Also, other stuff I have problems with is with the syntax, because I get errors all the time. I don't know if there's also ways I can like learn that better. Like I tried to do the index, but I did like the other brackets, not this bracket, so I didn't get it, and it sent me errors. So I was like, okay, it's not index, but it was not that it was an index, it was that I used the wrong syntax.
Yeah. So when you start coding, right, you're gonna make a lot of spelling mistakes. So
yeah,
I may have, for example, I may have set I here, right? But I is capital, and I may write something like this, right? Or I may write, set I or something like this, right? And it's not gonna work. And so you can notice that it's red underline.
Yeah, but I'm talking more about like the type of brackets you have to use and like the order and like all that. That's different.
Oh, this brackets?
Like all of them. Like the example I gave you is when I tried to do the index for that array.
Oh, this.
So I used the 0 you put there. I used different brackets to call that index. So it didn't do it because I was using the wrong brackets.
Oh, okay. So you
like
did this.
Things.
You did this.
Yeah. I did that.
Okay. Yeah. So this is something you have to think about. Okay. So what is this? So let's understand this, right? So if it's a function, right, then you use this, right? You can see this is a function. So you pass argument. This is also a function, right? So if it's a function, you use this. If it's an array, you use this, right? This is an array. So I have a square bracket, right? This is also an array, right? I have a square bracket here, right?
Okay.
And then curly bracket, anything that if I want to interpolate here, right? I can use curly brackets. Curly bracket also goes here. So curly brackets are called blocks of code, right? If you want to have a block of code. Is this your first programming class?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. It's natural, right? You're gonna make some mistake in the beginning, and But let's say if I use square bracket here, okay, you would see an error here. You see that? It says invalid. It kind of gives you some weird error, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it can tell you this object must have this method. You see, you need to use this. So it's not very clear, obviously, but it will give you, if you use the wrong thing, anytime you see this red lines underneath, you know there's something wrong there. Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm.
So I would look for that. And then, if I hover over it, it will give you some indication that you've done something wrong. Now, not every time you will have, so you see that gives you that this iterative method, which you probably don't understand what the heck that means, right? But if you can get some clue that, I need this kind of bracket, then you would just go and change it, and it would work like this. And as I said, go to the video again. It's all about practice, right? If you practice few times, because these are the things that you have to remember. That's it. How to define state. If you just remember the syntax, right? And then this syntax, we're going to repeat this pretty much every time. So just memorize it, that there will be like a const, and there will be an array like since, right? The square bracket equal to use state, and then parenthesis. If you can remember this, and then do it every time, this is a good indicator. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand the frustration. First time you code, it's always difficult, right? But if you don't practice, so let's say if you don't do anything in between this class and Wednesday, you're gonna come back and you will not remember any of this stuff that I taught, right? And it's a cycle all over again. So I would suggest that the page I gave it to you, right? Practice it, play around with it. If I click on it, instead of incrementing by 2, go by 3 or 5 or 100, play around with it, see what happens, right? And that's how you learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed that if I stop doing any coding stuff, then I go back to it and then just.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? So I would say, every other day, do a little bit of coding. And I bet next time you come back, you will be way ahead, right? So
yeah,
and it's not a rocket science, believe me. It's it may look a little complex in the beginning, but once you do this daily, it becomes a second nature. Like when I code, I don't have to think about that. I literally go like, okay, if I want to define y, then I know it's a square bracket y. I would just say equal to use state. I need initial value, 0, semicolon. That's it, right? And I made a mistake. You can see spelling mistake, so it complains.
it's so dramatic.
Yeah. So yellow is basically, I've created it, but I haven't used it. You see, it lets you know if it's unused stuff. You see, so keep an eye on this and learn from the cues. Like I use set, and it says set is not defined, which is true because I took away the I here. But as soon as I put I, it says, okay, I'm fine now.
Yeah. So when you use this, you don't have to do HTML?
No, this is your HTML.
Nice. Okay.
So let me give you an example. I just built a website. This is in React. I'll show you quickly. This is the website I'm building right now. Okay, I'm gonna run this.
You're still recording, just in case you can.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. It's,
okay.
And ping me on the Discord if you have any questions anytime, right?
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
if you can say, hey, I don't understand this. There are no silly questions. Like a lot of people like, oh, am I gonna look like complete idiot if I put it, ask this question? Don't worry about it, right? There are no
Mhm.
silly questions when it comes to programming. If you don't understand something, just throw it out. Say, hey, I don't understand. What is it? What is this, right? And I'll try my best to explain it.
Thanks.
So it's just loading in a second. It should. So what is your main, what's your, what do you do as work? Or-
Right now I'm not.
Okay.
Well, what I want to do, or what I do right now.
Okay.
It's my major is called mobile and web design, but
Okay.
I also I want to design, but I also want to code what I
Okay.
design, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's the goal.
Right. So let me
Mhm.
show you the design. Okay, since you're a design student, maybe it will help you.
Mhm.
Figma. This is the design that is built in Figma. I'm assuming that you know Figma.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. You can see the design
Yeah.
that was built. Okay. So
Mhm.
this is it's a lot of pages, right?
Yeah.
And I build the whole thing. This is all built in React, and this is all dynamic content. Okay. Look at this. So
Yeah.
when I click on it, it changes, right? It's coming from database. Okay, and then I can click on here and it opens. So this is a Barbara Bush Foundation. This is one of my client, and the Bush, President Bush, his wife.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I built this whole thing for them, and it's got a lot of pages. This would be
How
like a
long?
static
How long
website.
did it take you to do that?
Uh, about a month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a lot of things. It's got books, so you can read books. So let's say if I want to
Mhm.
I don't want to show guides. This is guys guide podcasts and all kind of stuff, right? Then I build
Yeah.
filters for it. If I click on here, the guides are gone, podcasts are gone, right? It's only sharing thoughts. I can look at it. I can click on it. All of these are dynamically. See, this is the dynamic. This is the state it remembers, right? Have I clicked on it? So this is the state I remember. Yes, I have clicked on it, right? The
Mhm.
toggle button I showed you, right? True, false. This is the
Yes.
toggle button, right?
Uh.
This is also toggle button. Do I want to show or I want to hide, right?
Mhm.
So all of this is dynamic.
Nice.
Okay.
So is this is a separate question, but when you deliver this to a client, then you that's your job is done, or do you have to come back to it at some point?
Well, it depends on how much they want to pay me.
Well, yeah.
So
Right.
so initially I would have some cost, right? So let's say they come back, they say, oh, I'm gonna pay you $50,000 for this site, right?
Mhm.
So I said, okay, how long is gonna take, and we negotiate some stuff, right?
Mhm.
They gave me the design, say this is what we want to build, right? And if you look at it, it's got let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 pages.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not fixed pages. You can see a lot of dynamic content, right? So I kind of estimated, so I said, it's gonna take 2 months. Okay, and then I'm about to be finished, And so we have daily meetings, and I'm about to finish. And then once I'm finished, I go and show it to them. So there's a demo tomorrow, and they're gonna look at it, and that's it. Once they like it, I deliver to them, and then they may come back to me and they said, hey, you know what, we're gonna pay you some more money to maintain it, right? Because they may want to have some changes. So
Yeah.
it's an advantage, right? So I said, okay, I'm gonna charge you this much money to maintain it.
All right.
So that's how it works.
Nice.
So I think, yeah, this is all done in React. So that's what I'm saying. If you know React, you can do a lot of magic. Something that it's very hard to do in pure JavaScript. That's why I'm teaching you React, not pure. But if you know JavaScript, it definitely helps, right? Because
Yeah.
ultimately it is JavaScript. So,
Yeah.
but a special
Nice.
form of JavaScript in a way. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I said, don't hesitate to ask questions, right? Because I don't know if you are getting it or not unless you ask questions.
Yeah, I was a little late today, so I had to like catch up and write all the code first, and then I was like all over the place. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time, what you should do is just say, hey, I'm having this error here. Can you help me? Right?
Okay.
Or something
Yeah.
like that. Right? So I can stop and I can explain. Because I want to go really slowly because a lot of people are new.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I'll do that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sounds good. All right. See you next week.